Hi, I'm Craig Harrison, Expressions of Excellence, the founder and chief expressionist, and it's my pleasure to share a few stories from the programs that I do on sales and service, on communication and leadership, on storytelling, and more. There's a special kind of a meeting called the brainstorming meeting. And believe it or not, brainstorming has rules. People say, rules in brainstorming? It should be like improv, no rules. But of course there are rules in improv. And there are rules in brainstorming. Now, I can best exemplify some of the rules by sharing a true story. It happened early on in my career. I had been hired at a software company, and it was my first meeting, which coincidentally was a brainstorming meeting. I was the new kid on the block. The only person newer was the manager who came from the East Coast to replace the manager who hired me. So there the two of us were in this brainstorming session with the best and the brightest of Silicon Valley. It was so exciting. We had such an eclectic array of professionals, and each one was contributing ideas. They explained the ground rules of the brainstorm, very simple. All ideas are created equally. We're going for quantity, not quality. Later, we will evaluate which ideas are feasible or are most practical for our situation, but we want to get quantity. And it's all about having fun. Everybody should be participating. We should go for as many ideas as possible, and it takes a while to get going. So let's loosen up, let's free our minds and ourselves and shake out the cobwebs, and we're going to generate momentum. Whatever we do, let's just keep it going. Whatever idea is shared, we simply add yes, and take on the next idea. And thus the brainstorming session started. And it was fun, and it was exciting. And I was listening with awe at some of the ideas. Some were logical, some were illogical. Some were reasonable, and some were outlandish. And yet each outlandish idea gave other people more ideas and more license to think, what if, or suppose we did this, or to think creatively or innovatively. I really wanted to contribute, but I remembered hearing long ago, when you're new to a group, you want to fit in first, then worry about standing out. But I thought, when do I add my little ideas? I really want to play with this group. I'm so intimidated and in awe of them, and yet I know there's something I can contribute. And so sure enough, there came a point where somebody suggested an idea that was zany and gave me a window to share an idea that I had been percolating in my mind. And so I said with a lot of excitement, yes, and what if we did this? And 14 people turned back and smiled at me, and yet before anybody could say anything, my manager from the East Coast said in a very loud and authoritative voice, well, that will never work. Oh my gosh. Thud. You could hear a pin drop. You could hear my heart being crushed. She had defeated me, deflated the energy in the room, all with 4 words. That will never work. I don't think she planned it. I just think she was being herself. She was practical. She was logical. She was the responsible one. She was the president, essentially, of this idea group. She was the manager. And yet she was so unclear on the concept of brainstorming. Here we were generating ideas, ideating, being creative, suspending judgment for once, not being practical or logical, but really indulging ourselves to be as creative as we could. And there she was, raining on our brainstorm. Or to put another way, we're brainstorming and she leaves a brain fart. She left a stink in the room. In that one moment, she immediately took all the energy out of the room and killed our session. Well, we wrapped up perfunctorily. That was essentially the end of the session. But it reminded me that whenever we are brainstorming, you've got to help people get clear on the concept. You've got to encourage them to just let it fly, to not be self-conscious, to not be judgmental. Whatever the idea, greet it with yes and, which is one of the important precepts of improv that really is important when you are innovating, when you are being creative, when you're trying to think non-linearly. You know, lateral thinking is not naturally done by a lot of us. We're so focused on being practical and logical and reasonable and responsible, and yet it's not easy to get out of yourself, to think what if, to turn ideas on their side. That's what improv helps you do. That's what brainstorming is all about. So when you next brainstorm, create a fun environment, have toys in the room, have music, get people loosened up, get them uplifted, and then great things can happen. Let me tell you about my favorite deli. It's Genova, or as they say in the old country, Genoa. Genova Bakery has been around forever. It's a deli in the Temescal region of Oakland, California, and it is such a melting pot. At this deli, which has been family-owned for 40, 50 years now, everybody convenes in the neighborhood. The employees from Children's Hospital Medical Center, the hip-hoppers from nearby, the Cal students come down before the games, and the neighborhood people are the regulars. And oftentimes you can tell how hard it is to get to Genova because there's never any parking spaces in the lot, but it's worth finding a parking space. Whenever I come through the door, I'm excited, I'm hungry, and I pull a number down from the numbers, and it says 14. And I say, great, I'm 14, and I look up, now serving 88. But not to worry, it goes fast. There are 12, 13, 14 different people behind the counter. But more than that, I use that time to study the magic of Genova because there's magic going on there. It's really amazing. You hear all these managers complaining about not being able to build rapport with their employees, and you hear about organizations who have trouble building rapport with their customers. Go to Genova Deli, and what you will see will amaze you. In 2-minute increments, when a server helps a customer, instant rapport. They are building rapport through questions, through compliments, through smile, through banter, whether they're regular customers and the conversation is just continued from the last time, or simply whether they are people coming in off the street for the first time. The people behind the counter know exactly how to engage. They ask a question, compliment, what a lovely blouse, what a nice scarf. Hey, those earrings go great with that necklace or that blouse. Or the young ladies behind the counter who ask me, what'll it be, hun? I have not been called hun ever, really. I start blushing, but we've got rapport. Or the one who says, yes, sir, what can I get you? Sir? Well, anyway, what's really interesting is that regardless of who takes your order, they all make your sandwiches with care, with love. They take an interest in you. It's a pleasant experience. And then there's Jake. Now, I've been coming to Genova for many, many years, and it really doesn't matter who makes my sandwich, except there's Jake. Jake's a little different than everyone else. How do I describe it? Well, Jake is methodical. Jake is deliberate. Simply put, Jake is slow. He's slow motion. You've been waiting, you're ready to get your sandwich, you can smell the wonderful aromas coming from the counter. You know, the cheeses and the different peppers and the meats and the sausages. It's wonderful. And then there comes Jake, and I say, Jake, I want a roast beef sandwich on Dutch Crunch, hold the mustard, all the peppers, pickles on the side, Swiss cheese, and Jake will slowly take out the roll, and he'll start cutting the roll. And I'm getting more and more impatient. Come on, Jake, you can do it. Then when it comes time to put the mayonnaise on the roll, I mean, he doesn't miss an inch. But I'm getting more and more impatient. Come on, man. I ordered this for lunch, not for dinner. Let's get a move on. Finally, Jake creates my sandwich, gives it to me. I thank him tersely and race off to whatever event I'm going to eat my sandwich. And I'm sure I eat it more quickly because it took him so long to make it. And then one day, I finally got it. It was an epiphany, no doubt while waiting for Jake to cut the sandwich, lay out the meat. It's like an engineering process with him. Fitting the Swiss cheese to the meat, making sure that everything is coinciding and cutting it at an angle. I realized, wait a minute, I'm upset with Jake, but isn't this really an expression of excellence? Isn't this exactly what I talk to people about and get paid to teach other people to do, to express your excellence regardless of what it is? Whatever you are working on as a professional, take pride in it. Work on that last 1%. It's not about quick and dirty. It's about whatever your piece of art is, being proud to be able to sign it and to let the world see that which you have created. This was Jake's expression of excellence. Even though it would be woofed down in just a few minutes, even though it would never be seen again, never be photographed, never be on display in a museum, this was Jake's expression of excellence. It was artistry, it was mastery. And, you know, he was putting that secret sauce into my sandwich. And you know what it was? It was amore. He was putting love into my sandwich. And in that moment, I came to appreciate that in life, there are so many works of art out there that are fleeting. They're transitory. They're almost illusory. They're here one day, they're gone the next. Or even here one moment, gone the next. If you think about performances, yes, we can videotape them, we can YouTube them, we can archive them, but they're live, they're in the moment, and that could be it for that piece of art. Now, I think about people at the beach who build these amazing sandcastles to show their kids, and a big wave comes and wipes it out. Or I think about the people who carve ice sculptures, and they're magnificent as long as the refrigeration is there, and then eventually they wear out. But the truth is that whatever it is you're working on, whether it's in miniature on a microchip, whether you're working on the next great architectural feat, the next great Golden Gate Bridge, or the next hotel in Las Vegas, know that whatever your piece of this project is, you have the opportunity to express your excellence, to inspire others, to beautify the world through your creation. Take pride in it. Focus on that last 1%, and know that your expression of excellence will be appreciated by all. You may get a thank you note in the mail, you may not. You may get a shout out from a dignitary or a professional or even the President of the United States, or you may not. But just know that there's greatness in doing great things, if only you know and nobody else does. I salute you and I celebrate your expression of excellence. It was a crisp fall day, a Saturday, which is a religious holiday if you're a college football fan. Whether you are or not, it was rivalry week. So that means around the country, whether it's Michigan, Ohio State, whether it's Alabama, Auburn, whether it's USC, UCLA, Cal, Stanford, Harvard, Yale, rivals were playing each other and the stadia were filled. Now, at this particular stadium where I was, everybody was eagerly awaiting the 1 o'clock start of this game. There were probably 60 to 70,000 fans from both sides, excited, eager with anticipation to see the game. The pregame festivities were winding down, and in a moment the contest would begin. Some dignitaries were brought out to the midfield area, and the public address announcer asked everybody to please rise for the singing of our national anthem, that day to be sung by a great operatic star. She was accompanied by her family, her husband, and her daughter of about 4 years old came out, and they stood behind her, and the microphone was there on the mic stand, and other dignitaries from the universities were there, the color guard, of course, with the flags. And as the opera star approached the microphone, ready to sing the national anthem, she detected that the microphone was not working. She motioned, stepped back, and the sound techs came up and examined the microphone. They looked at it, they checked the connections, they checked the wires leading from it, certified it as okay, receded, and she came right back up, looked around, and everybody was still standing, very excited to inaugurate the game. She took a deep breath, she started to sing, and nothing came out. And now she stepped back, her body language betrayed her frustration. She looked around, she made a face. Now that everybody was murmuring, all the dignitaries were uncomfortable, starting to pace, and the sound techs were looking at each other, what were they going to do? And they raced up and they started to examine the microphone again, the mic stand, the cables. A couple of them are getting on the walkie-talkies and they're talking to each other, furiously exhorting each other what to do. How are we going to fix this? There's an anthem to be sung and a game to be played. Luckily, there was no flyover that day. But it was very interesting because now she's thrown off her game. The crowd is visibly restless. You can hear the restlessness of the crowd. And then it happened. Her daughter was there, probably 4 years old. A little replica, a miniature of her mother, matching outfits. And the daughter was looking at all this, watching all the activity going on, watching her mother upset. It's hard to know exactly what the daughter knew and what the daughter didn't know, but she strode up past the microphone, looked at everybody, raised her hands, and even though we couldn't hear her, she started singing the national anthem. And people caught on. oh my gosh, the audience started to join her in singing the national anthem. First the section right in front of her, then the sections around her, then the people behind her. It was kind of like the wave, only better. The entire stadium suddenly was unified by this 4-year-old girl who was singing the national anthem without a microphone, but full of histrionics, full of body language and a lot of panache, and the audience was responding. In all the years I've been attending sporting events at the college and professional level, I don't think I've ever experienced that kind of applause that that 4-year-old girl got. I mean, it was remarkable. And I remember at the time thinking, wow, that's something you don't see every day. And I was so inspired by her because I thought that example brought home the point better than any witticism or quote or admonition or list of top 10 ideas could, that for those of us in leadership, whether we are leaders, aspiring leaders, emerging leaders, it's so true. It doesn't matter where you sit, where you stand, where you speak. You can lead from wherever you are. Think about it. You don't need the title. You can be a leader without portfolio. You don't have to have been born into the Rockefellers or the Kennedys or the Rothschilds. You don't have to have founded a Fortune 50 company or have won a great war to be a leader. Every day around the world, there are people without title who are seeing a need and filling it, who are anticipating a leadership void and stepping up to answer the call. The world is full of servant leaders who are unpaid and who put themselves at the service of others to benefit the group. I look around this room and I see servant leaders. And it's just so interesting. We can hem and haw about the title and the salary and the job description, but the truth is that there are so many opportunities to lead where it doesn't matter what your resume says. It doesn't matter who you understudied with. If you've got the skills, if you've got the courage, if you've got the belief in yourself, you can do it. And the world needs you. We don't just need you in the Middle East, we need you in the Midwest. We don't just need you in the inner cities, we need you in every community in which you find yourself. There are opportunities to lead. We need you leading as students.